Shalom, my friend. God isn't judging your income. He's judging your habits. Your future doesn't react to what you want. It reacts to what you plant. I want you to think about something for a moment. Right now, somewhere in the world, there's a person making the same salary as you who will be wealthy in 10 years. And there's another person making twice as much as you who will be broke. The difference isn't luck. It isn't connections. It isn't even talent. The difference is seeds. You see, we live in a culture that has sold us the biggest financial lie of our generation. They tell us to think big, manifest wealth, visualize success, set massive goals. But here's what they don't tell you. Here's what the Torah has been teaching for thousands of years. God doesn't multiply wishes. He multiplies what you plant. I'm Rabbi Shimon, and I've spent decades studying the intersection between ancient Torah wisdom and modern financial psychology. And today, I'm going to show you why your financial life isn't changing. It has nothing to do with market conditions, your boss, or the economy. It has everything to do with the tiny seeds you're planting every single day without even realizing it. The truth is, most people are planting weeds and expecting roses. They're sowing chaos and expecting harvest. They're living by impulse and wondering why their bank account reflects impulsiveness. But when you understand what I'm about to teach you, everything changes. Your relationship with money transforms from anxiety to peace, from scarcity to abundance, from hoping to knowing. Let me start with a story that changed my entire understanding of wealth. There was a man who inherited a small plot of land from his father. The land was rocky, seemingly worthless. His neighbors laughed at him. Financial advisors told him to sell it and invest in the stock market. But this man understood something they didn't. He understood that the size of the harvest isn't determined by the size of the field. It's determined by the consistency of the planting. Every morning before sunrise, this man would go to his small plot. He would pull one weed, plant one seed, water one section. His neighbors called him obsessed. His family called him unrealistic. But after 5 years, his small plot was producing more fruit than farms 10 times its size. You see, he understood what most people never learn. Small, consistent actions don't just add up. They compound. This is the law of seed and harvest. And it's the most misunderstood principle in all of personal finance. We've been conditioned to believe that wealth comes from big breakthroughs. We wait for the promotion, the inheritance, the business idea, the lottery ticket. But Torah teaches us something radically different. Wealth isn't an event. Wealth is a harvest. And here's what's fascinating about harvest. They don't care about your intentions. They don't care about your prayers. They don't care about your visualizations. Harvests only respond to one thing, what you actually plant. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to understand something crucial. This isn't about religion. This isn't about following rules to earn God's approval. This is about recognizing divine patterns that govern how reality actually works. The same God who created the laws of physics created the laws of prosperity. And just like gravity doesn't care about your beliefs, the law of seed and harvest doesn't care about your good intentions. So let's talk about why your financial life isn't changing. And I want to be brutally honest with you here, because someone needs to tell you the truth. You're not failing because you don't know what to do. You're failing because you're not doing what you know. You've been seduced by the modern lie that says knowledge equals transformation. But knowledge without consistent action is just expensive entertainment. I see this everywhere. People who read every financial book but never track their spending. People who attend wealth seminars but go home to the same destructive habits. People who can quote Warren Buffett but can't save $50. They're waiting for inspiration to strike, for motivation to hit, for the perfect moment to begin. But here's what Torah teaches us. Seeds don't wait for perfect weather. They grow in the conditions you give them. This brings us to the first Torah principle of wealth that will revolutionize your financial life. Everything grows after its kind. You don't get the life you want. You get the life your habits are compatible with. This is psychological law disguised as agricultural wisdom. Think about this. If you plant apple seeds, you don't get oranges. If you plant debt habits, you don't get wealth outcomes. If you plant impulse decisions, you don't get intentional results. Your current financial situation is not a reflection of your desires. It's a reflection of your daily decisions compounded over time. I watch people all the time wondering why their bank account doesn't match their dreams. But when I look at their habits, everything makes perfect sense. They want abundance, but practice scarcity thinking. They desire wealth, but fear success. They pray for more, but can't manage what they have. They're planting poverty seeds and expecting prosperity harvests. Here's what's so beautiful about this principle. It removes all the mystery from wealth building. You want to know where you'll be financially in 5 years? Look at your habits today. Are your daily actions compatible with the life you say you want? Because your future is being determined right now, in this moment, by the tiny choices you make when nobody's watching. This connects to the second Torah principle that most people completely misunderstand. Delayed harvest is not denial. Torah teaches us that time doesn't prevent your blessing. Time protects you from what you're not yet ready to receive. Let me explain this because it's going to change how you see every delay in your life. When you plant a seed, there's always a season between planting and harvest. During that season, the seed is invisible underground, growing roots, developing strength, preparing for what's coming. Most people interpret this season as failure. They plant the seed Monday and expect fruit by Friday. When they don't see immediate results, they quit. But Torah teaches us something profound. That invisible season isn't punishment, it's preparation. God isn't withholding your harvest to be cruel. He's developing your capacity to handle what's coming. Think about it. If you received $1 million today with your current money habits, what would happen? You'd destroy it within a year because you don't yet have the internal structure to sustain that level of wealth. This is why delayed harvest is actually divine protection. Every day between planting and harvest, you're becoming the person who can receive what you've been asking for. The delay isn't denying you, it's developing you. And here's the beautiful part. When harvest finally comes, it doesn't just meet your need. It exceeds your imagination because you've grown during the waiting period. I've seen this pattern over and over again. People who build wealth slowly and steadily versus people who get wealth quickly through inheritance or luck. The slow builders keep their wealth and multiply it. The quick receivers usually lose it within a few years. Why? Because wealth isn't just about having money. Wealth is about having the internal capacity to generate, manage, and multiply resources consistently. This brings us to the third Torah principle that will transform your entire approach to money. The size of the seed predicts the size of the season. Small, consistent actions motivations outperform emotional breakthroughs every single time. We live in a culture obsessed with dramatic transformation. We want the diet that works in 30 days. We want the business that makes us rich overnight. We want the investment that doubles our money instantly. But Torah teaches us that sustainable prosperity comes from small, repeated actions that compound over time. Let me tell you about Joseph. Not the Joseph with the coat of many colors, but Joseph, the administrator, who saved Egypt from 7 years of famine. When Pharaoh had his dream about 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of scarcity, what did Joseph do? Did he pray for a miracle? Did he visualize abundance? Did he set big goals? No. Joseph implemented a simple system. During the 7 years of plenty, Egypt would save 20% of every harvest, not 10%, not whatever was left over. 20% consistently, systematically, without exception. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't exciting, it was just disciplined repetition. And what happened? When the famine came, Egypt didn't just survive. Egypt thrived. Other nations came to Egypt for food. Egypt became the wealthiest kingdom in the region because Joseph understood that structure plus small actions equals empire. Here's what's so beautiful about Joseph's strategy. He didn't rely on inspiration. He didn't depend on motivation. He created a system that worked regardless of how anyone felt. The harvest was automatic because the planting was systematic. Now let me ask you a question. What would happen if you implemented Joseph's principle in your life? What if, instead of waiting for big financial breakthroughs, you focused on small financial disciplines? What if you saved a small percentage consistently rather than waiting to save large amounts occasionally? I'll tell you what would happen. In 7 years, you'd be living a completely different life. Not because of one big decision, but because of thousands of small decisions aligned with divine patterns of increase. But here's where most people get stuck. They know what to do, but they don't do what they know. And there's a psychological reason for this that we need to address directly. Modern culture has conditioned us to confuse motivation with discipline. We think we need to feel inspired to take action. But inspiration is an emotion, and emotions are temporary. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision. It's choosing to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. And here's what Torah teaches us about discipline. God doesn't reward intensity. He rewards consistency. He doesn't multiply your emotions. He multiplies your actions. Think about the people in your life who are genuinely successful. Not the people who talk about success, but the people who actually live it. What do they have in common? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not even intelligence. It's the ability to do boring things consistently over long periods of time. They track their expenses when it's not exciting. They save money when they'd rather spend it. They invest regularly when the market is scary. They make disciplined decisions when everyone else is making emotional decisions. This is why they harvest abundance while everyone else harvests chaos. Now, I want to address some specific patterns I see that prevent people from applying these principles. First, there are people who start budgeting with great enthusiasm, but quit after 2 weeks when the novelty wears off. They treat financial discipline like a diet instead of like breathing. But Torah teaches us that wealth habits aren't temporary programs. They're permanent lifestyle changes. Then there are people who want more income but change nothing about their daily routine. They pray for promotion but don't develop skills. They wish for opportunities but don't prepare for them. They want harvest without planting. They want results without process. But seeds don't respond to wishes. Seeds respond to work. I also see people who confuse motivation with discipline. constantly. They wait to feel inspired before they take action. But by the time inspiration comes, the opportunity is gone. Successful people don't wait for feelings. They create feelings through actions. There are also people addicted to financial, emotional highs. They make money and immediately spend it because they can't handle the boring reality of accumulation. They mistake intensity for effectiveness. They love the drama of financial crisis because it makes them feel alive. But Torah teaches us that peace, not drama, is the sign of divine alignment. Finally, there are people waiting for the right moment instead of planting today. They're waiting for more income, better circumstances, perfect conditions. But perfect conditions never come. The right moment is always now, because now is the only moment you can plant in. So what does all of this look like practically? How do you actually implement the law of seed and harvest in your daily life? I'm going to give you 7 specific actions you can take this week that will begin transforming your financial reality immediately. First, track one expense category for 7 days. Not everything, just one category. Maybe food, maybe entertainment, maybe coffee. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. You can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't improve what you don't track. Second, save a fixed micro amount daily, even if it's just $1. The amount doesn't matter, the consistency does. You're training your brain to prioritize future you over present you. You're developing the neural pathways of wealth building. Third, stop one financial leak today. Maybe it's a subscription you don't use. Maybe it's eating out when you have food at home. Maybe it's buying things to feel better when you're stressed. Identify one specific way money is leaving your life unnecessarily and stop it immediately. Fourth, replace emotional spending with a pause habit. Every time you feel the impulse to make an unplanned purchase, pause for 24 hours. During that pause, ask yourself one question. Will this purchase move me closer to or further from my financial goals? Most emotional purchases won't survive this simple pause. Fifth, plant generosity weekly, even if it's symbolic amounts. Generosity breaks the spirit of scarcity and activates the spirit of abundance. When you give consistently, even small amounts, you're declaring that you have more than enough, and the universe responds to that declaration. Sixth, schedule a weekly wealth review. Spend 15 minutes every week looking at your financial situation. What came in, what went out? What patterns do you notice? This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. You can't improve what you don't examine. Seventh, commit to one wealth identity action daily. Do something small every day that a wealthy person would do. Maybe it's reading about investments for 10 minutes. Maybe it's listening to a financial podcast. Maybe it's learning one new money concept. You're not just building knowledge, you're building identity. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking these actions are too small to matter. You want bigger, more dramatic changes. But this is exactly the mentality that keeps you stuck. Torah teaches us that whoever is faithful in little will be faithful in much. The person who can't consistently save $5 will not consistently save $5,000. Others are thinking they don't have time for these habits. But that's not true. You have time. You just don't have priorities aligned with your stated goals. You have time to scroll social media for an hour, but you don't have time to track your spending for 5 minutes. You have time to watch Netflix, but you don't have time to learn about money. Time isn't the issue. Values are the issue. Some of you are thinking you'll start these habits once you make more money. But this is backwards thinking. You don't make more money and then develop good habits. You develop good habits and then make more money. Increase comes to those those who can handle what they already have, not to those waiting for more to handle properly. And I know some of you have tried before and failed. You think this time will be no different. But here's what I want you to understand. Previous failure doesn't predict future failure. Previous failure actually increases your probability of future success because now you know what doesn't work. Every failure is data. Every setback is set up for comeback. The key is starting smaller this time. Don't try to revolutionize your entire financial life overnight. Revolution creates resistance. Evolution creates results. Choose one habit, master it for 30 days, then add another. Small changes sustained over time create massive transformation. And here's what's going to happen when you start implementing these principles consistently. First, wealth becomes predictable instead of lucky. You stop hoping for financial miracles and start creating financial systems. You realize that prosperity isn't something that happens to you. It's something that flows through you as a result of aligned actions. Second, opportunities start finding you. When your internal structure is ready, external opportunities appear. It's not coincidence. It's divine coordination. Your preparation meets God's provision at the intersection of faithfulness and readiness. Third, your identity, structure, and habits align. There's no more internal conflict between who you want to be and what you actually do. Your actions reflect your values. Your habits reflect your goals. Your daily routine reflects your destiny. Fourth, peace replaces anxiety. When your financial life is built on solid principles instead of emotional reactions, you sleep better at night. You worry less during the day. You trust the process because the process is trustworthy. Fifth, generosity feels natural. When you're operating from abundance instead of scarcity, giving becomes joy instead of sacrifice. You realize that the more you give, the more flows through you. Generosity isn't a burden, it's a blessing. Finally, money becomes a servant instead of a master. Instead of you working for money, money works for you. Instead of you being controlled by circumstances, you control circumstances through consistent, wise choices. This is the life that's available to you, not someday, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready, right now, today, with the next decision you make. But it requires you to reject the modern lie that says wealth comes from dramatic breakthroughs. It requires you to embrace the Torah truth that says wealth comes from disciplined planting. It requires you to stop waiting for harvest and start focusing on seeds. Remember, God isn't judging your income. He's judging your habits. Your future doesn't react to what you want. It reacts to what you plant. And the beautiful thing about seeds is that they don't require permission to grow. They don't need perfect conditions. They just need consistent planting. So here's my challenge for you. For the next 7 days, implement just one of the 7 actions I gave you. Don't try to do all of them. Don't try to be perfect. Just choose one and do it consistently for 1 week. Let the success of that small habit build your confidence for bigger changes. And remember this, every expert was once a beginner. Every oak tree was once an acorn. Every harvest began with a single seed. Your transformation doesn't require you to become someone you're not. It just requires you to do consistently what you already know to do. The law of seed and harvest is working in your life right now, whether you're aware of it or not. The question isn't whether it's working. The question is what seeds you're planting. Because whatever you're planting today, you're going to harvest tomorrow. Your soul is the blueprint. Your life is the construction. Shalom, my friend. Now let's build the life God designed for you.